Welcome, nerds, to the comic books and book news for the week. This is where we talk about all things comic books and literature related. So if there's a new book coming out, we're not going to get into individual arcs necessarily, unless there's some sort of like major publisher-wide effects that are going to be related to said arc. We don't really get into individual arcs or individual issues. We just talk about the broader news at large. So without any further ado, let's talk about some comic books and possibly some books as well. Now, let's get into comic books and books, shall we, nerds? In comic books and books this week, it's kind of short-ish. We have Patrick Rothfuss update on the King Killer Chronicles situation. We also have some new comic books announced, one of which being Wild Cards situation from Marvel. We'll get into that. So let's start with follow-ups and corrections. Our one follow-up has to do with Patrick Rothfuss. The King Killer Chronicles Doors of Stone is not what we're talking about, unfortunately, though it is in the King Killer Chronicles universe. A couple of years ago, I think it was actually 2014, so some time ago, he released a book called The Slow Regard of Silent Things, and it was a short novella about the character Ari. Well, he's kind of doing that again. It's not going to be as short of a Slow Regard, but it is going to be a novella. It's going to be about the character Bast, so the Fae character that is in Kvoth's care, I think is how that should be worded. And it's going to be called, I just lost my notes, it's going to be called The Narrow Road Between Desires. I did not see an official release just yet, no release date, but when that gets announced, we will be talking about it. Yeah, I really want Doors of Stone, but any little bit of the King Killer universe is a good thing to me. Let's move on, shall we? That brings us into regular-ass news. In regular-ass news, we have a new X-Men book being announced from Marvel. It's going to be Dark X-Men. Dark X-Men #1 is going to be written by Steve Foxe. The artist is going to be Jonas Scharf, and it's Dark X-Men. This is kind of cool. The team that they're going to be using for this Dark X-Men is going to be Madelyne Pryor, Havok, Archangel, Gambit, Azazel, Zero, Albert, and Emplate. Albert is super noteworthy because it's been so long since I've seen him even mentioned in the X-Men books, and he is an alternate version of Wolverine, kind of. He's like a cyborg Wolverine. It's a really cool backstory. I really hope they get into some great character development with these characters, because these are all fantastic characters that all very much deserve their own kind of mini arcs, if you will. So very excited about this. Again, even though it's been some time since I've really been into Marvel books, I can see myself getting into this one. Next up on the regular-ass news, we've got Wild Cards on the docket. Wild Cards is a George R.R. Martin book series that has been around since the 80s. I believe there's something upwards of like 25, maybe even 30 books in the series now. We've talked previously about them in the book suggestions because they're fantastic. George R.R. Martin is not the sole author of the book series. Many of them, the vast majority of the books, don't even have a single author because they're a collection of shorter stories that tell an overarching main story. And so Rothfuss, I'm stuck on Patrick Rothfuss. George R.R. Martin is the editor. He does write some of the stuff as well, but primarily he just puts it together and decides how that overarching story for each book is going to come across. And then each book is part of a larger whole. Obviously, all 20, 30 plus books are telling a giant story altogether. So it's pretty awesome. If you haven't read them, I absolutely recommend it. But now we have a comic book series that is also going to be written by George R.R. Martin. It's going to be called Wild Cards Now and Then. It will be on sale July 25th. Actually, no, I take that back. It's going to be edited by Martin. It's going to be written by Carrie Vaughn. That's right, I remember. And then art is going to be from Renae De Liz. I think a little bit of the art has been released so far. It looks amazing. I'm super excited about it. I'm very interested to see Carrie Vaughn's take on this very well-established universe. Has me a little worried, because it's not the greatest track record when we're taking a well-established universe in current year and doing new things with it. So instead of just continuing what has been done since it was established. So a little trepidation there, but still hopeful, if that makes any sense. So from there, we have one other big comic book announcement. We have Nick Fury, in keeping in Marvel side of things. Nick Fury is retiring. The character, legitimately, Marvel is retiring the character. Will no longer be Nick Fury Sr. Nick Fury is still going to be a staple part of the Marvel Universe. It's just going to be Nick Fury Jr. from now on. And I don't know, again, it's been some time since I've really been in deep with the Marvel side of comic books. I didn't realize this was I mean, I think I knew at some level that he had a son called Junior, but like why this is necessary is very much beyond me. So I don't know, maybe that's a conversation starter. Why do we need to switch from senior to junior? Why is that significant? I have no idea, but it was significant enough to make an announcement for it, so we're talking about it. That though is what we have for regular ass news. Let's talk now about comic books and books suggestion for the week. We're going with another book. I don't have it on me. It's over on the shelf somewhere. I couldn't find it, but I know I have it, and it is The Slow Regard of Silent Things. That Patrick Rothfuss book that we alluded to in the first bit of this section. A book about Ari. It's honestly... So Seinfeld, this is a weird connection to make, right? Seinfeld is a show about nothing, or so they claim. This book, Slow Regard of Silent Things, is legitimately a book where nothing happens, but in the most beautiful way. And I'm just gonna leave that there as your suggestion. That is your suggestion for books this week. It's a real quick read. It's like, I don't know, sub 200 pages. Go read it. It will be a beautiful excursion in time to just let your brain rest with all of those amazing prose. Yeah, that's your suggestion. I'm rambling. Let's move on. Once again, nerds, this is just the comic books and books section from the Week in Nerddom, which is the much longer video that gets posted over on the main channel, youtube.com/generallynerdy or @generallynerdy, however you gotta find it. That's the main channel. You get the entire, usually around about an hour-long video there that goes into other topics as well, TV, movies, rumors, etc., etc. Go check that out. Before we leave you, though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.